Back to you, Dan.
Commodities, man, we're going to stay right there because we want to talk about the softs now. Prices for agricultural commodities have rallied the last couple of weeks. On supply concerns, is it time to get in on the rally or is it too late? Who knows? Nirgunan Tiruchelvam is equities analyst RBS, joining us here at our Asia headquarters, together with our guest host Paul Day, chief market analyst MIG Investments. Nirgunan, good to see you again and good morning. We know the softs have lagged the rally we've seen in the other commodities since early March lows. So despite the run-up we've seen recently, is it still a good time to get in or starting to look a bit pricey now?
Actually, the fundamentals of the soft commodity industry are very sound. We're optimistic on soft commodities in general and specifically optimistic about palm oil and soybean oil. What is interesting to note is there are some supply constraints which are affecting the supply-demand dynamics at a time when demand is picking up from the larger emerging economies, China and India. Both economies have liberalized the import of these commodities.
Okay, supply constraints in terms of? We've talked about the weather. Is it something else?
That's right. The weather is an overwhelming factor.
Okay.
El Nino is a factor which has not been taken into account in the price. We think that El Nino is a reasonably sound proposition and a very likely proposition over the next 6 months. And if that takes place, we have seen, for example, in palm oil, that the productivity drops by about 8%. We've studied the previous El Nino episodes, and that's the conclusion that we've derived.
All right, so supply lags demand.
Yes.
Can only be good for prices, and you're especially bullish on palm oil as well as soy.
That's correct.
Is that right? Palm oil, what about the environmental concerns, though? I mean, there are a lot of food companies that don't like to have, don't like to put palm oil in their stuff.
Well, the environmental issue has been addressed to some degree. Many of the Indonesian palm oil producers provide some sort of certification that they are providing palm oil in an environmentally sound manner. They have not engaged in any sort of natural deforestation.
Okay. Nirgunan, a big deal in the commodities space this week was CIC, the $200 billion China Sovereign Wealth Fund, buying that 14.5% stake in Noble Group. Overall, is this a good deal for both parties?
I think it's a sound deal. We have a buy recommendation on Noble with a target price of 264. It seems undervalued at just 10 times. It's a company that has been improving its cash flow generation through some very sound investments in logistics. And for CIC, it's an excellent deal. All
right. How much of a real exit is this for Mr. Noble himself? This is only the second time that he's actually placed out his own shares. Is he stepping back? And, you know, the management team that he's groomed and put in place, is everything all right?
Mr. Ellman will continue to be the single largest shareholder, so I don't think we can...
Richard Ellman, I'm so sorry, yes.
We cannot conclude that he is stepping aside from the business, but he may be trying to reap the rewards of his many years of hard work.
Indeed, indeed.
And Olam are stepping up
That's
their acquisition strategy as well. Is there a concern that they may be overdoing it on the leverage side?
Olam has always traded at a premium to the rest of the sector. The question is whether that's warranted. They have a very sound footprint in some of the agricultural commodities that are not traded in the world's exchanges. So as long as they stick to their core competence, I think the company will derive some strength.
Niches, and they're vertically integrated. Paul, you wanted to jump in?
Just on a relative performance basis, obviously we've seen the hard commodities, a lot of speculative plays that have been going on. Do you think if there's a move back against the risk trade, whether soft commodities will outperform?
I don't think it's a soft commodities versus hard commodities issue. If the supply-demand dynamics for soft commodities are such that we will have shortages, we will have soft commodities possibly outperform hard commodities. But it's important to focus on the supply-demand situation for either one of the categories.
Regardless of whether the risk trade continues or whether it falls away?
Regardless. That's right.
And where do you see the most pressures in the supply constraint? I don't know, I've read about you know, pressures in rice, in the Indian rice crops.
Yes.
Are there any specific soft commodities that you think will outperform because of supply constraints?
Soybean and palm oil will be affected by the weather. They are the ones which are most actively traded. Rice is not a commodity that is traded as actively. It's not exchange traded in the same way that the other two are. So maybe the rise up in price will be a little bit muted.
Okay, so palm oil, we know some of the names, a lot of them are Malaysian, some Indonesian as well. Soy, who do you get into?
Soy is a commodity that you can invest directly on the Chicago Board of Trade.
Okay.
However, you can also get soy exposure through Wilmar International.
Ah, yes, familiar with the name. Okay, yes. Listen, Nirgunan, we got to leave there. Good to talk to you, sir. Thank you for the time this morning.
Yes.
We've been talking to Nirgunan Tiruchelvam from RBS.